Was that okay? Was that acceptable? Say it. Right, say it. You want to say it.
Good afternoon. All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Jeremy Ognall. I'm the host of the West Coast Sevens broadcast, and I'm super excited today to be on a call with Mr. Alex Goff. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Alex and his amazing work in rugby in this country, and also with Mr. Will Hooley, Major League broadcaster, Major League everything, and also a co-commentator at the West Coast Sevens. So, gents, it's great to have you. Alex, we haven't chatted to you in this format before, so why don't we start with you? And
Okay.
we saw you in Stanford almost 2 weeks ago. Tell me your thought on the West Coast Sevens, your experience there, and any lessons learned.
Well, it was really fun, really enjoyable to see that. I thought the teams were having fun. There was lots of different. We had 4 brackets, and I think it was not too big, not too overwhelming on that. On the men's collegiate side, I think still some of these programs are finding their feet in terms of sevens, rugby, and Cal. They had a very, very good plan on how to execute sevens. You could see that in the way they performed. But the venue, people forget how great Stanford is. Such a great venue. So it was really, really enjoyable there, and it was a really good second step getting into a 2-day tournament to finish it up this weekend.
Awesome. Well, it was great to see you there always. We didn't have much time to chat. It was a
true. You were working hard. I was wandering around. You were working hard.
Yeah. Will didn't give us a lot of breaks, I'll tell you that, mate. But Will, so you've done now 3, I think, West Coast Sevens, starting last year at the Olympic Training Center, LA, and then Stanford. Give us your perspective. Maybe even go back to last year and how you've seen it build and what your thoughts are.
Oh, I think it's great. It's Jeremy. It's great to be on here and good to team up with Alex as well. I know he enjoys covering these kind of tournaments because I do think the great thing about it is the fostering of the talent to come through of what's down the line of an LA home Olympics in 2028. Obviously, Seven's been a development tool for maybe the 15 side of the game. So you've got that 2031 and 2033 World Cup. So having these tournaments in place for the youngsters through from high school level to college level is so important, and it's a credit to West Coast Sevens for putting it on. And it's the standard as well. I think that's the thing which I've been so impressed by. You mentioned what's the difference between maybe last year and this year is the standard is just increasing, the skill set, because that's what Sevens does. It puts the skill set under pressure in a very sort of unique environment, one-on-one tackling, passes have to be made, 10 meters, 15 meters, whatever it might be. And that's, I think, the real tool of what Sevens can bring in terms of putting the athletes, putting their skills under pressure. And it's been great to watch, great to see, and great for the whole competition to build as well as we now go into the final 2 days in Oceanside.
Yeah, absolutely. Oceanside this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So I think we have a couple of long days ahead of us and maybe a beverage after the Saturday events, and then hopefully close out with a nice dinner on the Sunday night. But you mentioned the teams, and Alex, you talked about the types of teams, the high school and everything. What I've loved is going in the Olympic Training Center last year, it was 90% focused on college. I think we had 1 or 2 high school boys games, and that was it. But I think the organizers, again, did a great job this year. They brought in more college teams. They brought in women's college teams. They've got, women's high school, boys high school, women's college. So we're seeing the gamut of college and high school athletes coming in. And I think that just changes the whole dynamic. And what you said, Will, I'd like to pick up on is it shows that these kids are starting to ply their trade at an earlier age to learn the catch pass, the conditioning, the skills and everything that is going to make them a better rugby player. And it's fun to watch.
For sure.
Yeah, hey, two things on that. Sorry, Will. 2 things. One was on the high school level, there are teams that don't necessarily play at the very highest division in, say, Northern California, and the main reason is because they don't have a steady B side, but they have athletes and they have skills. And we saw Carmichael Hawks was the team that showed up, right? And these kids can play rugby, and this is where you can see and say, hey, let's have a look at this kid. Let's track somebody. Maybe is he going to college? Is he not going to college? Do we put him and think about Chula Vista early, something like that? There's talent there just because they're not in the highest level. And then on the women's collegiate side, in my mind, I had Stanford's going to roll. Stanford's going to roll. And Stanford was very good, but they weren't undefeated. And Cal Poly, God bless them, they started off a little shaky and they got better and better through the day and ended up beating Stanford in that final game. Stanford ended up winning the whole tournament, but only by points difference. And that I absolutely love that, because that's just learning through the entire process.
And I would say, just to add on to that as well, Alex, is when you maybe looking more on the collegiate men's side of the program or calendar, is there's always maybe this full period of like not really knowing completely what to do. It's really the CRAA sort of season kicks off in the new year, and then obviously the national championship being that sort of April, May time. So it comes back to my point as well, is how do I view sevens? I think it's a phenomenal game to showcase your skill and also develop your skill. And that's regardless of what that's in, whether it's collegiate or high school. But focusing on the collegiate side of the scheduling is like, it makes sense that to be able to have this ability to play West Coast Sevens this time of the year is just going to make the athlete a better rugby player overall. Yeah. So that's why I think the format works well. Obviously, you've got someone like Cal. They're brilliant and they are clear favourites, and they've shown that with the last 2 wins, both, of course, in LA and then Stanford. But throughout this time, teams are starting to pick and get close towards them. And again, I honestly think just these opportunities that are put in place, such as the West Coast Sevens, is only going to help the overall standard come together and therefore be more competitive come the season or come future Sevens tournaments.
Yeah, great points, guys. And just to wrap up on the collegiate side for a second, like you said, Cal have been the class. You know, they were the class last year. They've been the class the first 2 tournaments. I don't expect that to change. We'll go through, you know, some of the matchups in a few minutes. I do want to circle back out of respect, though, Alex, what you were saying about the Carmichael Hawks. One thing I'll tell you, I was actually commentating on a game when Will was doing the interviews, and not only were those guys bloody good rugby players, but they were fun. They were having a great time, weren't they, Will? Your interview with them was hysterical.
Oh, you got to love that, and that's the other thing, which I know, Alex, you do a great job with the Goff Report, is just getting the mic in front of these kids, both boys and girls. Like, they love it, and showing that on whatever level it might be, whatever social media channel or whatever sort of event, putting it on TVX, which I also think is a massive credit to TVX Productions on putting the event together on a broadcast level. That's going to help grow the game, because it's the sense of this is serious, it's fun, and it's kind of getting sort of a bit of go forward with the idea that, oh, there's a camera there, I can show off my personality. That's going to help the game grow. We've seen it with Alona Mar. We see it with other athletes as well, maybe in other sports. I think that's one of the absolute benefits we've seen from this tournament as well.
Yeah, well, they definitely showed a lot of personality. I know you picked on the big man rumbling and stumbling, and he did a great job.
Noah Gomez, he's the man.
He was full of personality. I'll tell you as well, all credit to them. They had such great experience. They actually reached out late and said, can we come to Oceanside? So they're actually coming down this weekend. We managed to find a way to slot them into the tournament. And again, I even got a message from their coach saying, hey, when we come down, let's chat. So he's all about the tournament, all about giving his guys the best experience. So excited to see Carmichael, but also some other really good high school teams that are going to be participating, including also Back Bay Youth are putting in a team. So that should be a really fun one. But let's go to the, I know Alex has got a few things to say here. Let's go to the collegiate pools. Unfortunately, we don't have the women this weekend. They have a qualifier at a different tournament. So it's only men and boys this weekend. But talk to us, Alex, about the pools, your thoughts on it. I know you have some strong opinions.
I think it's a little bit lopsided. Just going to say that. And I don't blame anybody who seeded the pools or whatever, because the teams are what they are when they come and play in a tournament. For example, San Diego State just finding their feet in their first one, and very young, new coach, everything like that. But I look at Pool A and I see Cal and Long Beach State and UCLA and San Diego State, and I think you've got potentially 4 of the top 5 teams in the tournament. No disrespect to the other guys. I'm just saying it's going to be a barn burner. The fight for second place there is going to be crazy.
Yeah, so I explained some of the rationale. I don't disagree, and I do actually want to say, so everyone knows, We really appreciate Keeley down at Miracosta putting his team in. Unfortunately, Arizona State dropped out just on Tuesday, so we were scrambling. But Keeley, credit to him, put his team in. Obviously, we'd love to have seen Peter and ASU. They were in LA a month ago, but they've had some injuries and some logistical issues. So again, great to have Miracosta. No real argument. What I will tell you on Pool B, and I'll have you chat about it. We've got GCU and USD as probably the biggest names in there, obviously followed by Claremont and Miracosta. But tell us what you've seen from GCU and USD the last month.
Yeah, well, look, I'm a big Charlie Purdon fan. Obviously, being located down here in San Diego, I think he's done a brilliant work with the Toreros. He's also backed up by some really interesting sort of assistant coaches as well, who help him out. In Dan Pryor, former San Diego Legion player, Maori All Black, Marcel Bracchi, former USA Eagle. So like, there's a bit of experience in the coaching department to call a favor from. And honestly, I know they've lost some of their athletes from last year. I know they're also really focused on their first season being in D1A. I'm sure, Alex, that you have your opinions how they might get on in the D1A 15 side of the competition come the new year. But there's a couple of really strong players in there. Daniel Sir, I really enjoy, and Chase Basong. I've watched these guys now over a few years, and seeing their development come through and them being the experienced players in their side. I mean, we had Caleb Tomlinson, who was with us in the commentary booth in Stanford. He was a former USD player as well. So look, I think they are maybe in a phase of transition. Maybe fair to say that. I know Charlie Purdon has said that to me. But at the same time, they've got good coaches. Those guys work unbelievably hard. They don't shy away in the contact. That is one thing they do not. Even if it's sevens, they will not. GCU, I know they've potentially not had their best team out all the time. I was really impressed by Tomlinson, the big guy, the ginger hair. He was flying around in Stanford and has a big physical presence. I feel in sevens, you do need that physicality. When you think of the like of Cal, I mean, they've got some unbelievable players, playmakers, like Rand Santos and Solomon Williams, but they've also got some power in the midfield that just gives you the go forward, and then enables you to use the space out wide. Sounding quite tactical here. So, yeah, look, two good teams, two sides who, as I say, might be in a form of transition and trying to still develop their quality. So keep an eye out on them for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, I mean, I love how San Diego has not shied away from challenges, and they have a really nice connection with De La Salle High School up in Northern California. So they get some of the players who play for them from De La Salle didn't play rugby at De La Salle. They come in as former football players. There's a storied program there. They can convert athletes into rugby players. They can fight there. I would like to point out, you mentioned Tomlinson on GCU, Marcus Terzoli. I thought was a nice little shifty playmaker. He's a good guy. And I think Grand Canyon, if they can get up in the air a little bit better, would be good. Cal State Long Beach. Now, here's the story. The deal with them was in that first tournament, didn't perform great. Some of those players had just been cleared for contact like the day before. Like they had done no contact. And then they come in and play that tournament. Peter CO has now had a little bit of time to work with them. He's got the two Lolesio Pua brothers, Isaiah and Elijah, now working well together, both out of Belmont Shore. That's the whole Peter CO Belmont Shore thing. He's got a couple of kids from Northern California, Lucas Platzbecker and Abe Antrobus. I hope Abe, I pronounced that right. They're all following like Victor Gomez is like their veteran, but they have these young guys, some of whom like the Pua brothers, they played high level sevens in high school. They played at the NAI sevens. They've won championships. They haven't done a lot of sevens, but I think they will be so much more attuned to this tournament. It'll be a completely different team, and so that they'll be excited to watch because of that.
Yeah, well, you guys have given great insight on a lot of the teams. Going back to a couple just to close on those. Firstly, you mentioned San Diego State, the Aztecs, my alma mater.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, they're young, they're growing. They've got a new head coach, by my best mate, Scotty Bracken. So what I'll tell you, they'll have a lot of skill, from Ryan Matthias and what he brings to it. But what I will tell you, with Bracken coaching them, they won't shy away from contact. They won't shy away from hard work, maybe even a little bit pushing the edge on the ground.
Not with
But
the size of Scott's arms. He's got some of the best arms in Southern California. I mean,
Okay.
geez, I honestly, every time I see Scott Bracken, I'm thinking, I hope to God I can maybe get in that shape at that age. I still think he would bench press far more than me or Corbs. And let alone, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm just pleased he's turning up so I get a look at his arms. So
Yeah,
good
well,
luck,
there you go.
SDSU. But I'm just
yeah,
happy to see Scott Bracken's arms.
I like a little levity in these chats, and that's true. But no, it is great to see Scott plying his trade at the Aztecs. That's where he grew up, playing the sport. Saw him as a freshman, and you're right, he's kept himself in great shape. But more than that, he's just a really good bloke. And so hopefully a few of us will have a chance to get together. I do want to say as well, you mentioned, Belmont Shore players playing for Long Beach. I know Ray Egan, who's my head sevens coach at Claremont. I'm sure he wishes he could have some of those Belmont Shore boys at Claremont. It's a bit of a different proposition how to get in there. What I will say about Claremont is, are they going to threaten the Cal? No, they're just not. They're not. We're not built that way as a program. But I tell you, if Sam Brown, our captain, the Canadian kid, if he's playing, he's an absolute game changer. Him and Jack Farber. And again, I'm not saying we're going to compete for the top, two positions, but they can do some damage if they're healthy. But I think it'll be a good competition at the top for who are the top four going into Sunday. And I do think, talking about GCU, I think this tournament is set up better for them as a 2-day tournament, traveling from Arizona. I think they'll be able to find their feet a little bit more. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. So before we close,
point, yeah.
I do want to talk.
Yeah.
We have some broadcast talent that we're coming in this weekend. Unfortunately, it's not you, Alex. I wish it was, but you're at another tournament. But I've been blessed to sit alongside Will now for the last year plus, and really enjoyed it and building my relationship with him. We got Alex Corbacero in the last couple of tournaments, and we've had a blast with him. I don't want to go on too many more car rides with him and listen to his music every time, but he's a great bloke, and obviously his credentials stand for himself. Ian Hanley is coming back. He was the lead broadcaster a year ago at the Olympic Training Center. He's going to be there. We're also going to be joined by Dallin Stanford. I think everyone who's watching this probably knows who Dallin is. So we're going to get his sultry tones and his slippery eel comments coming through, over the weekend. And then we've got some other talent too. We've got Dominic Reebley coming down from Santa Monica to help us. We've got Josh Shabada, a young talent from LA, coming. And I know, Will, you'll be really excited about this part. We have Isabella Caron coming back in from Waco, Texas, who did sterling work. Will, give us your opinion on her.
Well, first and foremost, yeah, great team. Some good people, a few dodgy accents in there as well, which will make it a bit fun. But it's great. I think this is the other thing, certainly why I give up my time and volunteer to help out on this, is because to see the growth, not just on the rugby field, but also in these other elements of our sport, broadcast, production, media, whatever it might be. And it might only be small, but seeing someone like Isabella come through, keep an eye out on her. Brilliant talent. I heard her for the first time and it screamed ESPN straight away. And she knows the game as well because she plays for Baylor. Excellent. And I thought Caleb Thomason as well. He did a great job in Stanford. And it's great to have these, insights from previous collegiate players, and also just that youth come through. And we're going into a level of media out there where it's going to be about that younger generation, and having that sort of step up with the experience as well, I think it's only going to be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's loaded with talent. Again, I want to credit the organizers for getting in. I love the way you use the term volunteer, Will, because I just want everyone to know, when I saw my bar bill in Stanford, I don't believe that your work was total voluntary. I think there was some upside for you. So hopefully you don't go to that level.
No comment. No comment.
No comment.
But no, I mean, the organizers have done a great job bringing all the talent in. TVX Video, as you mentioned, Will, they've done a great job. So I hope everyone gets onto YouTube, gets to the TVX Video stream. There's going to be 2 pitches this weekend going from 9 a.m. Saturday till about 3, and then Sunday at 10 a.m. until about 2:30. So plenty of rugby to watch on the TVX streams. And I think we're just going to have a really good weekend. And in closing, I'd like to ask, and I'll start with you, Alex, and then close with you, Will. What would you like to see next from CRAA, from West Coast Sevens, in terms of more structured sevens in this country?
Well, I think this format is terrific, and I think that possibly if you had, it doesn't have to be much longer. You could have more tournaments sort of regionalized with an idea of maybe a point system to funnel your way into a finale like this weekend. I think would be pretty cool, and to be able to say the first week you had 3 tournaments or 4, and then the next time there are 2, and then you move your way up to the final one or something like that to draw in more of these teams. I think that, if you went a little further north, you might see Western Washington, Central Washington, Oregon get involved. If you went a little bit more east, you might get not just Grand Canyon, but Arizona State, et cetera, in there. That's kind of where I'm thinking it growing. Don't immediately try to take over the entire nation, but just move out a little bit. And you use the word formalize, and Jeremy, because I know you like that word, but the idea of points, and let's have a points table that moves our way through that is pretty cool too.
Great. Will, what about you?
Oh, I do think Alex has kind of hit the nail on the head. I think, first and foremost is this is being brilliant in terms of how it's tried to be organized, tried to be very professional, set up well. I know when all the colleges and the high schools come to the event, they feel ultimately looked after, which I think is important, because I know these things are really hard to put on. I mean, I always tell people overseas, just try and organize a rugby competition in the United States. It's like trying to organize a rugby competition in the whole of Europe. Geography is a tough thing. So I think Alex makes a really good point. And probably something I mentioned right at the beginning about it's a good time, this time of the year, with the kind of schedule of West Coast rugby, to focus on this format. And also, I love the fact that Zach Test was there in Stanford, the USA Eagles Sevens head coach, having a look at this talent that's coming through. That was on the men's side of things, because Sevens is kind of the focus at the moment, and that will flip. And you say about not trying to be the national thing, Alex. Well, you're right, because on the East, I know obviously they're focused on the 15s before the weather sort of closes in. So look, it's I think what they're doing within their means at the moment, West Coast Sevens, is brilliant. I think there's obviously the wish of trying to expand, but almost be careful what you wish for as well, because these are small increments which are working out, and hopefully is going to get better next year, get better in 2027, and then we're going to see maybe a real core group, both on the men's side of things, female side of things, come 2028 Olympics, being like, oh, they came through the West Coast Sevens over the last however many years. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think great ideas. One thing I do want to say, I agree about trying to expand, Alex, and I think the organizers do want to do that. But as Will said, it's a lot of work, and you don't want to dilute the quality, because it's real quality. There's real top quality referees there. There's quality discipline. There's quality coaching. So the events really stand out. But credit to teams like Oregon, who came down to Stanford. Western Washington came down to LA. So I think the sooner we put dates on the calendar, some of these teams that are a little further geographically can make the investment to come down and play, and they showed well. So we definitely want to have them back. We've invited them back, but we'll obviously keep everyone posted. And Will, in closing, you mentioned Zach Test. It was great to see him there. This weekend, we've got a bunch of interviews lined up. I know you'll be doing many of them, aside from just Carmichael, which I know you'll be anxious to do again. But we do have Perry Baker, I believe is a Perry Baker sighting. We're going to have a Nick Boyer sighting. We've got a Stephen Thomasine sighting. So I think with you, Will, with your boots and your rugby prowess, I think you and Perry and those guys could probably put a sevens team together and maybe put yourselves in the draw.
I don't even want to be put in the same sentence when it comes to sevens with those sort of guys. They would run rings around me, even in my heyday. No, great to see, great to hear people get behind this great tournament, and likewise as well. Great, Alex Goff. I know how much you do with the collegiate and high school game. It's important to hear the voices of you getting behind it, as well as you, Jeremy, and all the work you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. Well, listen, we'll close this. I want to say thank you, Alex Goff. Thank you, Will Hooley, for joining. Thank you for supporting West Coast Sevens. Looking forward to the weekend. And for now, I guess is Jeremy Ognall saying goodbye and good night.